Before me is a 2013 Mercedes-Benz C63 AMG, and today I'm going to tell you why it is the best C63 that Mercedes will ever make. Let's get to it. Now, why do I think the W204 series is the best C63 that Mercedes will ever make? Well, it starts right here with the M156 6.3 liter V8. Now I know, before you get mad at me, it's not technically a 6.3 liter, but the Germans rounded it up. That's what it says on the side of the car, so that's what I'm going to go with. And also, that's how it got its name, C63. It stands for 6.3 liter V8. So that's how the name has gotten carried on, and that's how a lot of these AMG cars got their names in the late 90s and early 2000s. For a matter of fact, the C63 wasn't the first C-Class AMG. They had a C36, a C43, and a C55 that came before it. However, the C63 right here is the best one that they'll ever make. And it's because the M156 motor. The fact is, the new motors have a 4-liter twin turbocharged V8, which are absolutely phenomenal. But they don't carry the 63 name properly. They don't have a 6.3 liter V8, they've got a 4-liter twin turbocharged V8. That's where this shows that it's truly the king of the 63s, especially the C63s. We've got a beautiful power plant here, and this car having the P31 package, which includes heads, cam, and rods from the SLS AMG, bumps the horsepower to 481 horsepower and around the similar range of torque, pushing this car from 0 to 60 in the very high 3s or low 4-second range, depending on what tires you have and your surface that you're running it on. It also produces some of the most lively and enjoyable exhaust notes I have ever heard on a V8 car. Outside of some Ferraris, this has the best sounding V8 that I think I've ever heard. The way it pops and cracks and just makes weird metallic noises out the exhaust tips every time you shift and downshift, something that the new cars just don't have. And don't get me wrong, they do have pops and bangs, but they seem artificial or not true and genuine. These, they're proper pops and bangs from the C63, because it has the 6.3. Now, this being a 2013, they have the issue of the head bolts snapping in two, completely solved for the most part, as that issue was solved about mid-2011. So this one is head bolt issue free as far as I'm aware. And I think that's the case because this example right here has 100,000 miles and still goes strong. It can easily achieve its top speed of, well, I think it's about 186 miles an hour. But I think this model right here has been delimited because they came standard with a limiter of 155, and this vehicle is certainly capable of going much faster than that. Now that we're at the front of the car, this is the facelifted version after 2012, and we can see we've got aggressive styling. We've got a nice front splitter here. This does have the P31 package, which gives it upgraded compound braking system with red calipers, stiffer suspension, some bits on the inside, including an Alcantara and leather steering wheel, as well as a carbon fiber spoiler in the back. Overall, I think this front end looks really nice. We've got aggressive front turn signals, headlights, and a front grille. But as you notice here, this isn't a traditional Mercedes star. And of course, they got rid of the actual vertical stars a long time ago. But this vehicle came fully loaded and has Distronic Plus, which is an absolutely amazing feature. What it does is it's essentially adaptive cruise control. Before, really, they had adaptive cruise control. And what it is you set the speed to, let's say, 80 miles an hour on the highway, and it will keep its distance from the car in front of you at whatever you set it at. This is really handy, especially in stop-and-go traffic in the city, as you really don't have to hit the brakes or the gas at all. You just let Distronic Plus do the rest, and all you have to do is steer for the most part. That is a really nice feature. I never thought I would say something like that, but it does get handy once in a while. And of course, you can just turn it off and drive it if you really want to, but I'd save the driving in this thing for the twisty back roads. Now that we're at the back of the C63 AMG, we can see we've got a plentiful array of AMG stuff. We've got AMG and C63 on the other side. In the complement, we've got this beautiful carbon fiber splitter that's part of the P31 package. We've got these really nice tail lights with dual LED running lights and LED turn signals, but only halogen brake lights. Small little detail that I wish they included in to be LED. But that can all be put aside because we have a symphony of sound right below us here. We've got our quad oval exhaust tips that sound, well, the tips don't make any noise, but the exhaust that comes out of it definitely does. So let's give it a listen. Now the reason I like this generation of the C63 over the other one is because, well, it's exhaust tips. Yes, the current generation C63 has quad exhaust, but they don't have classic AMG oval quad exhaust. Matter of fact, these oval exhausts are bigger than the current exhaust on the C63 or almost any AMG model. They're massive, and AMG started out with oval exhaust, especially in the early 2000s. If you look at the ML55 AMG, the E55 AMG, all those early AMGs with their big, powerful V8s had nice oval exhaust. The new ones have square or kind of square or weird shapes. It's not the same as the oval exhaust. I know it sounds like a weird little feature, but it matters. Now that we're in the trunk of the C63, there's actually a lot of space back here. We've got plenty of space to put on probably 4 or 5 carry-on bags or luggage bags. We've got the latches to put down the rear seats. We've got an amp and a sub box over there. And we've got our Mercedes-Benz safety first aid kit right there. You also have a spare tire. Now, not a full-size spare, a space-saver spare at that, but you get a spare tire. You just put that up and there's a nice little clip where you can lay it right down like that. Now, one thing that took me aback is how massive the battery is. I have a Ford Expedition and my battery isn't even this big. It's absolutely colossal, which is kind of interesting, I thought. But I guess all that power out of the 6.3 liter V8 needs some juice to run it. Now here we've got our Space Saver spare. I actually had to use this a couple days ago as I got a nail on the tire, but all was good. And the funny detail is it even says AMG on the spare. It's the little details that count, Mercedes, and we notice them here. Now, here that we're on the door, we can see that obviously it being a coupe, it's got slightly longer doors, but those haven't seemed to pose a problem, at least in my experience, in day-to-day life and in parking lots such as that. You can see that this is its first opening position, which doesn't give you a whole lot of space, but it is enough to work with. We've got this really nice carbon fiber trim here with some red leather inlays, and we've got the classic Mercedes driver's seat control, or not driver's seat, but seat controls right here with memory seats all the way up to 3 people on both sides. We've got the grab handle right here, and we've got a little store bin down below. Overall, it's pretty simple and neat seat design. I have noticed though, with all Mercedes, people don't know where the seat controls are, and they're messing around on the bottom of the seat trying to find it, and then they realize it's up on the door, and their first thing was, oh, there they are. Now that we're inside the C63, we can see it's truly driver focused. There's not a whole lot of stuff up on the dash, and you've got your 3 gauges primarily focused, obviously, to the driver. You've got your infotainment screen tucked away in the dash and slightly tilted to the driver, so everything is fairly seamless. You've got a nice rearview mirror setup, if that's important to you. And of course, you've got our aftermarket radar detector. But overall, everything's really nice and simple. We've got a beautiful carbon fiber layout here. We've got 4 main air vents, 2 in the middle and then 1 on each side. And we've got a nice centrally located, obviously, but simple driver's control thing with infotainment, Bluetooth, navigation, stuff like that. One really thing I like is the kind of silver button display down here. We've got our heated seats, we've got our traction control, we've got 2 blank switches, which generally in Mercedes models they're more than that, but for this one they actually fit. We've got our emergency hazard lights in the middle, we've got our parking off, and then we have our heated seat on the other side. Just below that is the climate control command. We've got off and some fan speeds. We've got auto, and we've got these really nice, it feels a little light and cheap, but then again it doesn't, to the touch temperature control, and then they do come up again in the infotainment with the specific degree until you hit all the way down to the bottom, and then it says low. Like low. Other than that, we've got really nice supportive seats here, really nice bolsters. They really hug you in if you're going around a corner. You don't get thrown around very much. That does come with the P31 package as an upgrade, and this beautiful two-tone red outside with black inserts really sets this car interior off. Again, with the P31 package, we have this beautiful steering wheel with this Alcantara lining and leather trimmings around the top and the bottom. We've got these beautiful paddle shifters that feel really nice to the touch. Now, speaking of the paddle shifters, the transmission is a 7-speed wet clutch transmission, and it's pretty good overall, but it does get a little laggy at times on the downshifts, I will admit, and even sometimes on the upshifts in manual mode. You know, it's one of those things, but for the most part, it's really, really good, and it bangs through gears like nobody's business, and it sounds great doing it. You've got 4 modes here. You've got Comfort, Sport, Sport Plus, and Manual mode. Generally, I like to drive around in Comfort mode, or I'm in Manual mode. I don't really use Sport or Sport Plus a lot, but Comfort and Manual are my 2 go-tos. You also have Race Start, which is RS. That's basically launch control, and I haven't figured out how to use it in this car, but imagine it's pretty brutal. Now, once you get to the gauges, we've got our speedometer in the middle that goes all the way up to 200 miles an hour, and I highly suspect in this car, if you were to de-restrict it and take all the technology and restrictions off, you could use the entire speedometer, which puts the saying, I bought the whole speedometer, I'm going to use it to its purpose and good use. Next to that, you've got a beautiful tachometer revving all the way up to 8,000 RPMs with the red line cut off at 7,200. And a little thing in there that says 6.3 liter V8, so you're always reminded what engine's under the hood. You also have AMG at the bottom of your speedometer, so you don't forget that you're in the C63. Next to that, you've got your fuel gauge and your temperature gauge to give you a readout and show you how quickly you are burning through fuel, just to hear that beautiful exhaust note. Also up here we have our sunroof, panoramic sunroof control and sunshade. Absolutely beautiful system, and it's a massive panoramic sunroof, so you can just roll that thing on back and embrace all the outside air, and also listen to that exhaust pop, bang, crackle all the time. Now, in the infotainment screen, in the dash, we have several modes. You've got AMG, you have trip, nav, phone, and audio. The AMG menu shows you pretty much your gear that you're in, the temperature of the engine oil, and the transmission oil temp. Pretty basic readouts. They also have settings for lap timers and your gearing settings and transmission and handling modes. Your trip shows you your overall odometer, your trip settings, and your fuel economy and range. Though I wouldn't pay too much attention to your range and fuel economy because you'll most likely be disappointed. Overall, I really like the interior of the C63. Visibility is really good, especially out the back and the sides. Handling is top tier, as we'll see in a minute when we go drive. And the comfort level, when you are in comfort mode, is supreme for the vehicle that you are driving. This is a performance AMG model, and when in comfort, it doesn't really beat you up. The best part about this interior is when you're on the highway, cruising at whatever speed you prefer, and just living the dream using Distronic Plus or just flying through the gears. Now, in typical Doug DeMuro fashion, we are going to attempt to crawl into the rear seats of the C63 and see just how comfortable it is. Now, before we get going, the seat is in my current driving position. Now, I'm not a super tall person, I'm about 5'6", so let's see how it goes. And we just push that forward, and that slides on up, and let's crawl on in. It's pretty easy for me, I'm not a super tall person. We'll just slide this on back and disappear into the back of the car. Now, sitting in my current driver's position, I've got great leg room, great visibility, great comfortable, just all-around experience. Now, if you're a taller person, probably 6 foot or so, you may have a little bit of a difficulty, but if you were a smaller person, you could definitely spend some time in the back seat. Alright, driving the C63. Well, first off, I mean, any AMG is going to have an amazing driving experience, and this one is no different. The handling, the feel, the comfort, the ride, everything is what you would expect from an AMG. And even this one being 9 years old and having 100,000 miles, I don't really see any issues. It's comfortable, it's smooth. I'm riding in sport, and I've got the manual mode and the suspension's in sport. Everything's in sport, and it's still pretty smooth. I mean, I've had this thing in comfort mode, and it's even more comfortable. But for the purposes of this video, we will drive around in sport. The paddle shifters have really nice response. Those compound composite brakes, absolutely great. Really nice, big, not sure the exact diameter, but they're pretty big, drilled in the front. 6 piston brakes and 4 in the rear, with some red calipers to go along with it. I think this is really, if you look aside from how terrible your fuel economy is, if you drive it like this, you can really daily drive one of these, and this is what this vehicle was mainly used for, is daily driving and long road trips. You know, you got plenty of space in the trunk like I showed earlier, and you can comfortably haul people around if you have to. You can also give it here, put it in comfort mode, turn the sport handling off, and throw on Distronic Plus, and I've got it set for 50 miles an hour, and all I have to do is steer, and even sometimes on the highway, if you go out of your lane, it'll put it back in the lane for you. It's a really nice feature to have, and especially if you're on long road trips, you can't really go wrong with it. But enough of that Distronic stuff. Let's go back into manual mode, sport mode. Just said Distronic was off, and let's enjoy the 6.3 liter V8 as it was meant to be driven. As you heard, the exhaust makes those beautiful pops and bangs back there. Can't really go wrong with it. I mean, you can't really go wrong with this car. If you can afford and deal with the cost of just regular maintenance, which isn't astronomical if you keep it maintained, and really the biggest thing would be fuel costs. I mean, this is a heck of a car to drive. It's a total highway bomber. You can have a lot of fun with this. And really, you know, prices are starting to go up. So if you are thinking about getting one of these, I'd get it now, sooner than later, because these are gonna keep appreciating in value, because this is the last car that Mercedes will ever make with a big V8 naturally aspirated engine in a small coupe body style, and even a small sedan body style. The new C63 that's coming out after this current generation is going to have a hybrid 4-cylinder, and they're still going to keep the 63 name. I think that is wrong, to say the least, but you know, times are changing, and what can you do? Well, I know what you can do. You can go out and buy yourself a W204 C63.